Hey everyone, and welcome back to my countdown to Halloween. So today is day 28, believe it or not. It's only a few days left, but I figured today was actually going to be one that some of you have been asking for, and that is a couple of recommendations from some of the different labels. Now, as I was putting titles together, I sort of realized, this really needs to be a much longer video. So definitely one that I need to revisit after we get past October. And I think what I need to do is just go through each label and sort of have multiple recommendations. So just for the sake of today's video, I just want to go through a couple real quick from a couple of the labels. I picked out a couple that either a lot of people don't know or they're not as well known as you might think they actually might be. So starting off real quick, which actually probably kind of covers that, as I'm sure a lot of people probably know about this one. This is from Troma, and this is actually Tromeo and Juliet. This is probably best known because it was written by James Gunn, a very young James Gunn, and has all the Troma aspects to it, basically excess of everything and sort of everything is over the top, but it's highly entertaining, very, very funny, but one that I think a lot of people know, but I don't know actually how many people have actually seen it, believe it or not. So I wanted to recommend this one from Troma. Next up is one I actually mentioned in a previous video, and this is Who Can Kill a Child? And this is from Mondo Macabro. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And like I said in the previous video, it's just kind of an intense video, and one that, again, where sort of children are the enemy, in this. Almost like a precursor to Children of the Corn, actually, in a way. But definitely one I wanted to recommend from them. Next up from Scorpion Releasing is the movie Rituals. Now, this is one that actually kind of caught me off guard. Wasn't really too familiar with it, but it's like a slasher survival horror film. Very, very well done. And it was actually one that, again, I hadn't heard of. I remember talking about it to a couple friends, and none of us had really known about it, but we all picked up Scorpion Release, and were pleasantly surprised by it. Next up is one that I think everyone knows, but I don't know how many people actually really have seen it, and that is actually Prom Night from Synapse. Now, I'm mentioning this for two reasons. One, I think a lot of people actually know of Prom Night, but I don't know how many people have actually seen it. Again, it's an early Jamie Lee Curtis slasher film. It's one of the ones she did after Halloween. But another reason why I'm mentioning it too is the fact that Synapse has always talked about the fact that for whatever reason, this was a highly requested title, but not one that sold very well. So for their sake, I always like to kind of mention it when I can. And again, if you haven't seen it, it is very much a very underrated slasher film. Speaking of slasher films, this next one sort of goes in the opposite direction. It's from Vestron Video, and that is Slaughter High. This is much more of a cheesy film, but I think it's very, very entertaining. Again, it's one of those where it's it's so bad it's good kind of thing, at least for me. Next up is one I just saw recently, and thanks to a buddy of mine for recommending it. And this is from Vinegar Syndrome. This is the film Resurrection, about a cop who's on the trail of a serial killer who's killing people in very sort of religious, symbolic ways. There's sort of an essence of Seven. I'm sure it was inspired by Seven in a lot of ways, but I was very, very much surprised by it. It's a newer release from Vinegar Syndrome, but definitely one I would recommend. Next up from Severin is the movie Buried Alive, aka, take the slipcover off, Beyond the Darkness, the Joe D'Amato film. This is one that I saw for the first time just a couple years ago, and actually, again, it's one of those, just like Joe D'Amato films, they go completely way out there. And again, it's an Italian film, so if you're familiar with Italian horror, I think you know what to expect, but this one really, really surprised me by just how much I actually enjoyed it. Next one is from Arrow, and that is the film Blood Rage. Now, this is one that, again, some people know, but I don't know how many people have actually seen it. Again, slasher film that takes place actually on Thanksgiving. It's actually a Thanksgiving horror film in a way. And this is one that is sort of works kind of in the middle. It actually is well done, but at the same time, it's actually really, really cheesy. There's a couple aspects to it that are really funny. One of them is the infamous cranberry sauce line, which when you see the film, you'll definitely see what I mean. But if you haven't seen Blood Rage, I definitely recommend it, especially if you want to look for a Thanksgiving-themed horror film. And then finally, the next two are from Scream Factory. One of these is actually one I really, really enjoy, but not a lot of people have seen it, and that is Fear No Evil. One of those possessed films about a kid in high school who sort of gets, infiltrated by a demon and stuff, and it's, I don't know, there's just a lot of aspects to it that I find really enjoyable. I think it was much more well done than you might think it is on the surface. Now, granted, this is one I grew up on, so I think I have much more of a fondness for it than some other people do, but it's one I recommend. Again, Fear No Evil from Scream Factory, and then finally, the other one from Scream Factory, which which again, I think a lot of people know, but I do want to mention is Brian De Palma's Raising Cain. What's so special about this release is that they were actually able to re-edit the film to put it back in as close to the original edit that it was actually supposed to be. So for the theatrical release, which is included on this release, the film kind of jumps around a bit. Whereas originally it was supposed to play in a very specific order. And they were actually able to re-edit the film so it actually does follow much more closely to the original idea. So I think that something like that I just find very, very cool. And again, Raising Cain I just think is a lot of fun. I mean, I know I'm saying that a lot, but it is. It's a lot of fun, a lot of entertaining. It's what a lot of these films basically have in common. If you haven't seen Raising Cain, I definitely recommend it. But if you have seen it but haven't seen the alternate edit, I do recommend checking it out. So just a couple recommendations. Again, I do want to actually do longer videos in the future, going through a lot of the different labels where I can recommend several different titles and go a little bit more in depth. I just wanted to pick out a couple just for the sake of this video. So let me know if you have a couple recommendations of ones that, you know, again, are not as well known from some of the labels. Be back here tomorrow for the next one of my countdown to Halloween. Yeah, we are almost done. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.